Alrighty, welcome to module 2 of the course. This is where we are talking all about technique, and I've even changed my top for this. This is basically we're going to talk about various different things that you can do in terms of the physical technique in order to get more comfortable and more confident on camera. So yeah, let's just go for it. All right, so technique number 1 is honestly just to really get your reps in. Now I want to show you kind of before and after, me and a couple of other YouTubers that I look up to in terms of camera presence and confidence, to show you what like the before and after looked like when we just got started and when we were actually good at the thing.
Hey guys, as you may know, I purchased a new laptop cooler for my new laptop.
We have a new MacBook Air and it's redesigned. It's pretty sweet. We got this announcement at WWDC on stage a couple days ago, and I did get to spend some actual hands-on time with the new laptop.
60-second story, real quick. I got all the way downtown, was pumped for this beard trim. Never been to an actual barber before. I wanted like the lather on the neck, you know, using those little brushes and the little, not in an actual mug.
So today we're sharing a few things from the old Spice Rack to help you spice up those timelines. Doesn't matter what editor you're using, it'll work on all of them. But the long and short of it is we've created 4 different packs for motion graphic template overlays.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the BMAT Tip Series. My name is Ali, I'm a 5th year medic at Cambridge, and in this video we're going to be talking about the approach to Section 2 chemistry.
Right, so you've probably heard the phrase that renting is money down the drain, and you've been told your whole life that you should get on the property ladder and buy a home, because once you've bought a home, then you're saving money and it's an investment and stuff. And hey, at least you're not renting anymore and throwing all that money away and setting it on fire. But it's actually much more complicated than that. And yeah, hopefully you'll see from those examples that like generally when people just start out talking on camera, they do it really badly, and they just get way better at the thing over time as they just get their reps more and more in. The more you film yourself, the more you send video messages to your friends, the more you make videos, the more you film vlogs, even if you're not uploading them anywhere, the more comfortable you will get talking to a camera and recognizing that it's actually not that big a deal. And it's not just that you get more practice, it's also that you become way more comfortable seeing and hearing yourself on camera, and psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. And you've probably noticed this when it comes to music, that the first time you hear a song, you don't necessarily vibe with it, but if you hear a song enough times, you really start to like it. And this is the idea of the mere exposure effect in action. The more familiar we are with something, the more we like the thing, and the more we like doing the thing. So as you get more and more familiar with being on camera, the more you will like yourself on camera, because you'll think, oh, I actually don't sound too bad. And the more you'll actually like the process of being on camera, because you'll think, oh, this thing is actually quite fun. And it sounds kind of weird to admit, but I actually do spend a lot of time on YouTube just watching my old videos, just back, because I'm just like, oh, it's actually not bad. I think I did a reasonable job over there. I don't like watching the really, really old ones where I was really bad, but especially, you know, a year or 2 into the journey, actually a few months into the journey, I was then more comfortable with my presence on camera, and so it's actually quite enjoyable watching those videos again. Now, apart from just sending video messages to friends, which as we've already talked about is a super easy way to get your reps in, the other way to really maximize your reps is to minimize the friction that it takes to set up the camera and hit record on a video. Again, there are hundreds of people we've had across our YouTuber Academy who have been complete beginners, and the ones who have succeeded, or who have succeeded at getting started on YouTube and gone over that hurdle of talking on camera, are the ones who have not been precious about the camera and the gear and the lighting and all of that other crap. The more you worry about production value, the more you worry about gear, the less likely you are to actually film anything. And the less likely you are to film something, the more the friction there is, and therefore you're just not going to get your reps in. Whereas if, for example, you can just lower the friction, just get a simple tripod, film with your phone, just have it set up at all times. Don't be so precious about having the perfect camera, perfect lens, perfect lighting, perfect conditions. It's like the people that just kind of do the thing get in way more reps than the people that wait for the conditions to be perfect. And then over a 6-month period, the person who has had a lower bar for putting a video out or filming a video has gotten in like 10 times as many reps as you have, because you've been just focusing on trying to get everything perfect for those 3 videos that you've made. All right, so those were some meta points around the importance of getting in the reps. Let's now talk about some practical, actionable techniques that we can use in real life to actually get more confident and more comfortable on camera. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Alrighty, so one thing that you can do in technique is warm yourself up. Now, I'm not a vocal coach, and a vocal coach would probably say that you should do the la 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 la, all that kind of stuff. I do that with my singing teacher. To be honest, I have never found those to be actually helpful in terms of being like warming up to speaking on camera, but there are a few things that me and some other YouTuber friends have found helpful. So Elizabeth, who is one of our friends and colleagues who has a YouTube channel, finds that she finds it really helpful to speak all of her videos to the mirror before actually filming the videos. Like in the warm-up of filming the video on camera, she'll just say it to the mirror first. And that means that when she's saying it to the camera, she's actually doing it for the second time. So automatically, some of the stuff, some of the sort of rough rough edges get cleaned up without really having to think about it. Something that my friend Thomas Frank does, he's another huge productivity YouTuber. He does a dress rehearsal the night before. So without turning the camera on, he just speaks to the camera and he rehearses what he's about to say in the video. To be honest, both of those techniques take time. And I'm not a fan of using time on things that don't necessarily need to have time used for them. These, like Elizabeth and Thomas, may disagree. They probably get a lot of value out of doing the dress rehearsals beforehand. But honestly, the main thing I find is that if I want to warm up for talking on the camera, for doing a video, and this is the warm-ups I was doing before filming this course, there's basically 3 things that I will do. Number 1, I will put on some energetic music in the background, either on Spotify or using my Amazon Echo or whatever. Number 2, I will be a little bit silly on camera. So often I will just like try and, I don't know, just rehearse lines from movies, just anything to sort of get out of my own head. You know, one thing I was doing before filming this this course earlier today, a few hours ago, was, you know, there's that line in Harry Potter where I think it's in the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, in the chess game, where, you know, Harry is like, oh, but what's gonna, you know, how Harry's like dithering about something or other, and Ron is like, no, it's got to be you, Harry, you, not me, not Hermione, you. And I was just saying that a few times to the camera just for the bounce, because it's just kind of funny. And it's just about like reducing the pressure and taking the pressure off of the fact that I'm speaking to a camera and this is a scary thing. And right now, you know, this is a course, like the stakes are higher. People are paying for this. You're paying to watch me do this kind of stuff, which just feels kind of weird now that I think about it. But it really, like the warm-ups beforehand are just about trying to get outside of our own head and trying to reduce the stakes so that we can kind of get over that hump of procrastination, actually get down to doing the thing. And the third thing that I like doing to warm up is genuinely to just sing to the camera. I will just do stuff like, you know, just before filming this particular lesson, I was just gonna burst into song a little bit. I was feeling a little bit of inertia to filming this. I was looking at the time and thinking, oh, I've been going for hours already. I just started singing from Hercules. I have often dreamed of a far off place where a hero's welcome would be waiting for me, where the crowds will cheer when they see my face, and a voice keeps saying, and then I'll try and kind of, sometimes I'll do it sincerely, but sometimes I'll really like pantomime it up. And a voice keeps saying, this is where I'm meant to be. And I'll just be silly with it, and no one has to see that stuff except my editor sometimes. And occasionally we include it as bloopers, but usually not. To be honest, I filmed like 500 videos for my YouTube channel. For most of them, I have sung before the video, and we've never included it because it's like, it's just part of the warm up. Singing might not be your thing, but like one way of, like, I mean, it probably is. To be honest, everyone sings in the shower. You as well, you probably sing in the shower, even if you don't like singing in public. And so to get yourself in that mindset of like, this is actually fairly chill, you can just sing on camera. Sing whatever song you like. It's just a vibe. It's all about warming up in a way that reduces the stakes, lowers the bar, reduces the pressure on us to quote, perform on camera, and recognize that it's actually quite a fun thing. And in a way, the more relaxed that we can be while talking to the camera, the more confident and comfortable we'll come across, hopefully. So those were my personal tips for warm-ups. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next lesson. All right, so we've talked about how warming up can help you lower the stakes, lower the bar, be a little bit more comfortable. Let's talk about a few more strategies and specific practical tips to get more comfortable on the camera. Now, there are 4 things I want to talk about here, and the first one is posture. Now, in kind of traditional classical vocal instruction, you will hear voice coaches saying you want to sit upright with your shoulders back and all that kind of stuff, and you want to make sure your resonance or something or other. But when we're talking on camera, again, we're trying to be as not uptight as possible. And so really the objective is to take on whatever posture will actually help you think of the camera as a friend or as a class of students that you might be talking to. Now, the thing that I often find, and I think I got this off of Peter McKinnon, is that I tend to lean forward a little bit. Like if I lean forward like this, I've got my elbows on the table. I usually prefer to have a desk in front of me because it's just more comfortable. And I can just sort of do this. I've got my elbows here. I can just sort of be in this relaxed posture. And my shoulders are probably not in a good position right now. I am hunching over a little bit, but like, I don't want to try and sit like this, like a, you know, a rigid robot. I want to kind of lean forward a bit. I want to sort of rock a little bit, and this is, you know, sometimes Gordon, our videographer, gets a bit annoyed because I rock, and that means my voice sometimes comes like, you know, depending on where the microphone is, it's up here right now, but it doesn't matter. It makes me more comfortable to be able to rock and to be able to act as naturally as possible on the camera, as if I was genuinely kind of leaning across the coffee table from someone and like having a chat with them, or in this case, the tone I'm taking right now is more of a presentory mode, where, you know, let's say I've got a class in front of me and I'm sitting here and I'm just like, all right guys, so, you know, we're gonna talk about stuff, and because I'm fairly casual in my presentation style, you know, this this sort of posture is what I default to. But your mileage may vary. Just don't think that you have to adopt a specific posture. Just need to do whatever feels natural in the context of how would I be posture-wise when I'm having coffee with someone. The other tip that's actually really good for this is actually doing something while you're talking to the camera. Now, my friend Sheen, my old housemate Sheen, when she was first speaking to a camera, she found it really helpful to be wrapping up a gift, because she was into wrapping, so she'd be sort of wrapping paper while she was talking, and she found that that helped her get over the hurdle of getting confident on camera, because now it's just like, oh, I'm just having a bit of a chat while doing something. Something that Elizabeth does is that she kind of records a podcast while painting. The idea behind that is that it just sort of occupies one part of the mind with something to do, so that the mind is not constantly in overdrive with anxiety and stress and fear about the fact that we're speaking on camera. One thing I like to do, if I find myself that like I'm speaking too fast, I'm getting too agitated, I'll just like grab a cup of tea. And this really helps me get into the coffee chat presenter mode. Be like, hey guys, hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna be talking about, pour myself a cup of tea, blah, 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 blah. And we're just gonna have a bit of a chat. So, I'm gonna talk about the reasons why I left medical school, and sometimes we cut the slurp out, sometimes we leave it in, just depending on what we wanna do in the edit. But there's something about holding a cup of coffee in my hand that just helps me be a little bit more comfortable on camera, because now there's something else to do. It's like, in a way, I'm focusing on this and I'm not necessarily fully focused on the difficulty of talking to the camera. I'm just like holding something in my hand. So, again, you don't want to fidget, you don't want it to be over the top, but this might be something that you can experiment with if you have something that you can do. This is why I enjoy doing Q&A videos while unboxing stuff. It just occupies the mind with something to do, which is kind of takes pressure, again, takes the pressure off of the situation. Tip number 3 is honestly, sometimes looking good can actually give you that confidence to feel comfortable. I feel really kind of somewhat uncomfortable talking on camera when I haven't had a shower and like done my hair a little bit. Right now, I probably have like flakes of dry skin on my face, but I don't really care. I try not to let those things affect me, but I do find that if I look reasonable and I've looked at myself in the mirror and I think, damn, looking fine. In that context, I tend to be more comfortable and more confident on camera as well. Obviously, you don't want to use this as a reason to procrastinate. You don't have to look absolutely perfect on camera because probably no one cares, but it is a thing that can increase your own confidence. And finally, tip number 4 is to give yourself plenty of time. To be comfortable on camera, you probably don't want to just give yourself 10 minutes to film a video that's going to take 10 minutes to film, because now you're in a frantic mode and you've got this baseline level of anxiety and stress that, oh my God, I need to get this video out on time. That's not an environment that's conducive to getting comfortable on camera. So one thing that we do for videos is we give ourselves the whole day, sometimes to film just 1 or 2 videos. With a course like this, I've given myself more than enough time. We've got all of today to film it, and we've got all of tomorrow to film it as well. We probably won't need to use all that time, but the fact that all that time is there means I can just relax a little bit. I can sit back, I can be a little bit more, I can take my time with it a bit more and be more comfortable. And hopefully that helps with me coming across on camera as well. So if you want to put this into practice, next time you're talking to a camera, try and just do something while you're doing it. Like maybe kind of pour yourself a cup of tea, maybe sip that cup of tea, sip, don't slurp, as my mum always says to me. Maybe do a little painting, maybe do a little origami, maybe do some doodling, do whatever you like that occupies your hands while you're speaking to the camera, and just see what effect that has. It might work for you, it might not, but I found that tip really helpful. Most people I know have found it helpful as well. But yeah, try these tips out and hopefully that'll help you get more comfortable on camera. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. All right, let's talk about another practical tip, and that is to what extent you want to be scripting if you're doing a presentation or if you're doing YouTube videos or anything like that. This doesn't really apply if you're just having a phone call with a friend, so you can feel free to ignore this lesson if you want to become more confident for those sorts of casual encounters. But in any kind of context where you're giving a presentation or making a video, you're going to run into this question of, do you want to script it word for word, or do you want to script it with bullet points, or do you want to script it not at all? And like, where do you land on that spectrum? Now, there's a bunch of YouTubers that actually do use word for word scripts. People like Tom Scott, people like Mr. Who's the Boss, people like MKBHD often uses a fully word for word script. But the problem with the word for word script is that A, it takes absolutely ages to write, and B, unless you're using a teleprompter, and then even if you are, it can be very hard to sound natural when you're doing a word for word script, because it will just inevitably sound like you're reading. Like, I've tried doing a few word for word scripts. I hate it. It just makes talking to the camera such an absolute nightmare that it's just not an enjoyable experience. And one thing I realized over time is that if I want to do something sustainably, finding a way to make it enjoyable and energizing for myself is like really the ultimate hack. Whereas if I feel like I'm not enjoying it, if I feel like it's draining my energy, then it's almost like I'm rolling a ball up the hill and it's a constant effort to keep it going. Anyway, that's why I'm not personally a fan of word for word scripts. And for most beginners, I'd recommend you just use bullet points so you know what you want to say but you don't necessarily know specifically how you want to say it. And I think this kind of hits the sweet spot because it's that 20% of effort that gives you 80% of the result in terms of thinking about the script in advance so that you know what you want to say, but it's not so much effort that you have to spend hours and hours and hours typing out a script word for word and then coming across as if you're reading something on camera. So this tends to be how I do most of my YouTube videos and also how I do most of my courses. So for example, this is what the script looks like for this very lesson that I'm filming right now. You'll see it's just a set of bullet points, but because I'm familiar enough with the topic matter, I can riff off of those bullet points, and hopefully that makes me sound quite natural and quite comfortable on camera. So as a bit of a practice round, what you can try and do is just pick an object, think about 5 reasons why you like the object, and then just film a video where you're just riffing about the thing for those 5 bullet points. So for example, if I was doing this on my phone, I'd be like, oh, this is the iPhone 13 Pro or something, yeah, 13 Pro, and I like it because the screen is good, the notch is interesting, and the weight feels good in my hand. I'm just gonna go for 3. 5 is probably a little bit excessive. And now I have those numbers in my mind. I have like, oh, I just need to tackle points 1, 2, and 3. And then I can just be like, right guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm gonna tell you all about my iPhone 13 Pro. And I wanna share 3 things that I like about the iPhone 13 Pro. The first one is the screen. The screen is absolutely beautiful. You know, 120 Hertz ProMotion display, it makes it feel so buttery. And anytime I use someone's phone that's not now 120 Hertz, it makes my eyes want to bleed. So to be honest, in one way, it's kind of bad that you use an iPhone like this because it really gets you into the habit of expecting a screen like this one, but it also just looks really good. Oh, it just feels so good. Secondly, the reason I love my iPhone is because the cameras are sick. Like, it's got 3 cameras, bloody blah, bloody blah. And finally, the reason I like it is because it just feels really good in my hand. I can toss it up and down like a good tosser, lol, and it just feels great. I can just do a little flick, put it in my pocket. People always get impressed whenever I do this. And these are the things that I like about my iPhone 13. Now, I'm not intending for that to go anywhere. It's not gonna be a video. It's just me spieling and rambling and doing a bit of crap. But really the whole point is that we're practicing here, especially if you're new to the camera thing. You know, I filmed 500 to 1,000 videos at this point, if you include all the courses and live sessions that I've done. So I don't have any real qualms about doing that. But if you're brand new to filming, if you're struggling with camera confidence, just doing something like that, talk about your favorite thing, just give yourself 3 bullet points and then you're done and you just do the thing. Just doing that repeatedly, within like an hour, you'll probably get like 20 different reps in of 20 different objects that you've got around you. And that's way more practice. That's like half a year worth of practicing making videos if you make 1 video a week. So you can really accelerate your learning curve by just doing practice drills like that one. And we're gonna have a special drill section as a later module in this course as well. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this lesson, improvising versus scripting. And to summarize, the thing that I'd recommend for most beginners, and actually for a lot of seasoned pros as well, is don't fully script your videos. You will find it quite hard. Try and riff using bullet points, and that will really help you get your camera confidence up. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson. Alrighty, welcome back. I just want to do a quick one talking about dynamics and pacing. Now, people often say that I speak too fast, and I probably do to an extent, but that's how I speak in real life. And in a way, I don't really want to change that for the sake of my YouTube videos. I actually did a YouTube community post where I polled the audience about this. And basically the vast majority of people said, no, don't change anything. We like the way that you speak. So I could probably speak slower, a little bit like this, but this feels way too slow for me and makes it not fun to make videos because now I'm speaking way too slowly. Or if I was really anxious and really agitated, I might speak quite fast, and then I would find myself speaking fast like this, and I'd find myself running out of breath and making mistakes. And then what I will do then, because I don't want to speak too fast, is I will take a breath. And just 3 seconds in and 6 seconds out, and even just taking that pause really helps me get centered and helps me not worry so much about the stress and the anxiety and the agitation of filming a video. And then I know I can always just cut the pauses out in the edit. You know, there's even software that lets you do this automatically. I use an app called Recut that automatically cuts out pauses. There's an app called a Descript that automatically cuts out pauses. And even if you don't want to do those, what our editors do is that they manually cut out most of the pauses from my videos. We're gonna leave that one in for illustration purposes. And so even if the pause is really big, like I'm gonna do a big pause now, but we're gonna cut it. I paused for about 5 seconds there, but we cut the pause, so you haven't noticed that I paused for 5 seconds. You can just pause, and you can always cut them out in post. And what I find that people who are new to camera confidence, who are new to speaking to a camera, in a way don't clock that you can always fix things in the edit. You can always fix things in post. You can always get rid of pauses if you need to. What you can't do is slow yourself down if you're going too fast. You could sort of speed yourself up if you're talking too slowly, but generally talking too slowly is not really a problem for people. Usually, the people that worry about camera confidence tend to have that anxiety response and therefore tend to speak a lot faster than usual. So the thing you want to do is that if you find yourself running out of breath, like I was over there, and I realized that, okay, if I'm running out of breath, that means I'm speaking too fast. So take a deep breath. Big exhale, get the air into the bottom of the lungs, as they say, and now I can just keep going, and I can feel a lot more chill and more confident and more calm about the way that I'm presenting on camera. So that was dynamics and pacing. You don't really need to overthink it, but I do find that when I find myself running out of breath, that's when I know that I've probably taken the speaking fast too far. So hopefully you found that helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. All right, let's talk about some more techniques for actually getting more comfortable and looking more confident on camera. And one of those is eye contact. Now, there's a few mistakes that people make when it comes to eye contact. The first one is not making eye contact with the lens. So for example, if you have a flip out screen, then it's great because you can see yourself. But the problem with having a flip out screen is that right now I'm looking at the screen rather than looking at the camera. And this looks really weird, doesn't it? Like, it looks like I'm looking off screen because I'm looking at myself and I'm admiring, oh, hello, I'm admiring myself. And it's very tempting to talk to a camera and actually just look at yourself, but it's probably really weird for the viewer. I'd much rather be able to speak to a camera where I can actually just see myself and see what my responses are, so I feel as if I'm talking to someone, but I know that looking at the lens directly is the thing, and making eye contact with the viewers is gonna make me come across as much more comfortable and much more confident on camera, and it's also gonna be a way better experience for the viewers who are watching my stuff, rather than watching me looking off to the side. And again, this is a thing that so many people get wrong. We always notice it in our YouTuber Academy. You've gotta make eye contact with the lens. At the same time, again, the mental model here is we want to treat the camera lens like a person. And in fact, the flip screen is now distracting me, so I'm going to ask Gordon to put the flip screen away. Perfect. So now I can't even see myself. I just trust that the framing is good because I looked at the framing beforehand and I have Gordon behind me. Even if you don't have a videographer, you can just look at the framing yourself. And then what I would actually suggest is you put the flip screen away, because it's very distracting, seeing yourself right there and just being very, very tempted to look at yourself rather than to look at the lens directly. Now, crucially, when it comes to eye contact, honestly, you probably don't need to overthink it other than just making sure you look at the lens. But one way in which it can go too far is if you just kind of fixate at the lens and you don't blink and you're in this sort of like presenter mode, and then that's probably a little bit weird. The way you would talk in real life is that you'd naturally do a little bit of blinking, you'd look off to the side a little bit, especially if you're thinking about something, and then you would look back at the lens. And then maybe you would think a little bit more and look around, and then maybe you'd look back at the lens. And there's something about that kind of wandering eye approach, and then looking at the lens and making eye contact, that in a way adds an extra bit of like, you know, toing and froing, an extra sort of sine wave movement of energy when it comes to our videos. It's not just about looking at the lens at all times, it's also about just being comfortable looking around, and then, but always kind of making sure that your eye contact is now, again, focused on the lens. It's all about the lens, it's all about connecting with that viewer through the eyes. If, for example, you're talking about an object that you're holding, you know, if I'm doing a review of an object, I'm not gonna be looking at the camera while I'm just trying to have this, because that looks a bit weird. I'll be looking across here, looking back there, maybe flipping it up, maybe doing this, maybe doing that, and just trying my best to act in the way that I would in real life. If I was treating the camera just like a person, I wouldn't just be fixated in terms of eye contact, but I also wouldn't not look at them at all. So really, it's just about finding that balance. Again, mostly this comes with practice, but the biggest tip I can give is don't look at yourself on the flip out screen, and try and make eye contact with the lens as much as feels natural to you. So that was a quick video about eye contact. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson. Just taking a few breaths before I start this one. In fact, we'll probably include this in the video because I am finding that like, I'm kind of feeling that thing of like feeling a bit too frantic right now. And so I'm just gonna take a few breaths. Right, anyway, this lesson is all about finishing your thought. Now, when it comes to speaking on camera, one of the things that can be hard sometimes is where we feel like we don't really know what we want to say, but we kind of know the vague direction of what we want to say, but not exactly what we want to say and how we want to say it. And so it can be very easy to just get in our heads about it and be like, okay, I need to have the perfect thing in my mind before I then say it on camera. But one thing I like to tell myself is that when I'm speaking to a camera, part of what I'm doing is speaking, but another part of what I'm doing is just thinking out loud. And I'll often say this with friends sometimes, or in a coaching session, or in a podcast. If someone asks me a question where I'm genuinely thinking about the response, I don't think in my head, I think out loud. And I even signal that I'm doing this sometimes, be like, huh, that's a really good question. Honestly, I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna think out loud for a moment. So when we talk about kind of what makes a purposeful life, you know, I think there's kind of five main pillars. I think, I could be wrong, but the 5 pillars of health, wealth, love, happiness, and impact. And yeah, I think I think if we have those 5 pillars down, then maybe that is what makes life fulfilling and more meaningful. But I mean, I'm sure philosophers have tried to figure this out over the millennia. No one's been able to figure it out. But that's at least how I think about it, if that makes sense. So that was me sort of thinking out loud about some thought that I had. And this is how I would come across if I was doing it on a video or on a podcast or in a presentation. And there's something about that idea of, finishing a thought, like being able to think out loud and being comfortable with thinking out loud on camera. That often comes across as really engaging to our viewers, especially if we go if the thing's been quite high energy and someone asks us a question, and then that question really makes you think. Now that silence is drawing the audience in. That silence is causing the audience to think, oh, something interesting is coming. And there's something about thinking out loud and not knowing what you're going to say that again just comes across as so authentic and confident and vulnerable at the same time that we just feel like we're on the edge of our seat, seeing someone think out loud. Obviously, there's a middle way here. You don't want to be so thinking out loud that you're just rambling till kingdom come. But you also don't want to be so scripted that it looks as if you've memorized everything you're saying and you're giving a presentation, as it were. Again, this depends on the circumstance. It depends on what kind of vibe you're trying to put across. But generally, more of us could benefit in terms of a camera confidence by being more okay with thinking out loud. And if you're filming a YouTube video, you could just tell yourself, you know what, I'm just going to think out loud for a moment here. This is something that I do sometimes. If I find myself wanting to make a point that I've got as a bullet point, but not really sure how to actually phrase it, I will just say out loud, all right, I'm just going to think out loud for a moment. And I will tell myself that I'm going to cut this whole segment out of the video. But then usually what ends up happening is that actually some of that segment is quite interesting and we leave it in the video. Because again, there's just something about thinking out loud that comes across as really authentic to the audience. And you'll notice as I was doing that, I wasn't making that much eye contact with the lens. I was kind of looking to the side, looking to a bit, I think 5 pillars, health, wealth, love. Even though I'm not making eye contact with the lens, hopefully this comes across as quite confident and quite engaging and quite comfortable because I'm okay with looking inside. And when you're thinking out loud, I wouldn't be thinking out loud by looking directly at it. I'm going, right, I'm just going to think out loud here. But I think there's 5 pillars of make a good life: health, wealth, love, happiness. And that sounds a lot more like I'm giving a rehearsed answer. But if I can look away, if I can slow down my energy, slow down the change, the pitch of my voice, and take my time a little bit more, there's something magical, hopefully, about that. I don't know how this is going to look in the edit, but I think this really does come across when it comes to videos where people are thinking out loud. Anyway, that was a lesson all about thinking out loud. I think if you can lean into that more when you're speaking on camera, when you're giving a presentation, in small doses, it can really come across as very engaging and very confident and very comfortable. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson. Alrighty, let's talk about mistakes and what we want to do about them. So in a previous lesson, I think when we talked about mindset, we talked about the idea of leaving some of your mistakes in the video, because sometimes, that too perfect theory, like not making any mistakes at all can make us seem a little bit unrelatable at times. But if we keep the mistakes in, sometimes in small doses, it can make us seem very endearing and relatable and human and authentic and vulnerable and comfortable and confident and all those nice words. Oh, I'm glad I got all those out in one go. I was just making that up as I went along. Oh, damn, I made a mistake there. Oh well, it doesn't really matter. But if you're making too many mistakes, and trust me, when you're filming videos or doing non-live presentations, you probably will make loads of mistakes. As a side note, there's something really strange about a live scenario where, I find that when I'm doing a 2-hour-long Zoom live session for my part-time YouTuber Academy, or when I'm giving a keynote speech in real life or on Zoom, I'll almost never make any mistake. Or if I do make a mistake, I will recover and I'll keep on going because the show must go on. I can't just stop. Whereas when I'm recording a pre-recorded video like this one, the temptation is always there if I make a mistake to think, oh, you know what, that was bad, let me just start again. Start again. And certainly when I first got started with making videos, for the first several months, it was taking me about probably 10 times longer than the runtime of the video to actually film the video because of all the mistakes that I was making along the way. And basically all of the YouTubers that I know and all of the students of our YouTuber Academy who haven't had professional camera experience before making a YouTube channel all find this as well. That you find yourself making a stupid number of mistakes, especially when you get started. One thing I find helpful when it comes to mistakes is just sort of giving myself a clap or a click for 2 reasons. Number one is to mentally reset. So let's say for example, I make a mistake and I want to do my take. Let's say for example, I make a mistake and I want to do my take again. Often what I'll do is I'll clap or I'll click, which helps me give that mental reset. But then it's also can be useful for our editors. I'm not sure about how useful it is for our current editors, but it was very useful for me when I was editing my own videos because the slap or the click creates a little spike in the audio levels in your video editing program. And so what I'm doing is when I'm editing the video, I can look for those spikes and it will signal to me that, oh, I've made a bunch of mistakes here. And so I can just go to the most recent one that doesn't have any spikes around it. And that means that that's probably a clean take. If you want to practice this, then obviously you can just apply it to whatever next video you're filming, whatever. If you want to, let's leave that one in. If you want to practice this, then you can always just apply it to whatever video you're working on next. But another way of actually practicing this thing is to just, again, The camera doesn't even need to be on. You just practice talking about something with anyone or anything, or even just not with the camera. Like right now, I'm not looking at anything, and I could just be like, I'm just gonna practice talking about this coffee cup. It's a bit of a weird coffee cup. I'm gonna describe the texture and the feel and the coldness of it in my hand, and you know, it's almost like improv. And if I make a mistake, I've got two options. Number one, own the mistake and continue, or number two, clap or click and then just start that line again. Now, another tip is that if you are gonna do that, you wanna leave a pause before and You want to leave a pause before and after the click. Because if you leave that pause, then it's way easier in the edit to bring stuff together. Whereas if I did things like this and I'm clicking and then immediately going onto my thing, and then immediately going onto the thing, you'll see, and then there's no gap here. There's no gap there. There's no gap there. There's a gap there. There's another gap there. There's another gap there. I'm clicking and then I'm pausing because it gives me the ability in the edit to not worry about the click being part of it. So then it becomes this almost reset, almost this ritual where you can just decide at any moment, you know what, this is going off topic. I'm gonna try and finish my thought, and then all I have to do is clap, and I can just continue in my flow from wherever I was. In the bonus materials for this section, we are gonna include some raw, uncut footage of me and what it's like for me filming a video, so you can see what I do in terms of these claps and clicks and all that kind of stuff. If that helps, a lot of students in our YouTuber Academy have found it really useful to watch those clips, because it just shows that, oh wow, even a pro like Ali Abdaal makes so many mistakes when he's recording. And it just all gets fixed in post, and then it looks reasonable in the edit, and it looks as if I'm a very confident and engaging camera speaker, even though I make a bunch of mistakes when recording pre-recorded video. Anyway, that was a lesson all about mistakes. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, let's continue our discussion of technique, and let's talk about hand gestures and body language and this kind of stuff. Basically, and I'm gonna move my laptop aside so that it doesn't get in the way. Essentially, leveling up the way that you use hand gestures and just being a little bit more intentional about it is one of the quickest things, one of the easiest changes, one of the easiest tweaks that you can make to your confidence on camera. So the mistake that people make when they're unconfident on camera is doing something like this. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about blah, 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 and they're just sort of sitting very, very static. And you might as well be an audiobook narrator there, because you're like, the fact that you're on camera doesn't really mean anything. Generally, what you can do in terms of leveling up your confidence on camera is when you're sitting by a table, make hand gestures in this sort of range. So you'll notice in this course, I always like to have a table in front of me. I always like to lean a little bit forward such that my elbows are on the table. Yes, I know it's impolite to have your elbows on the table if you're eating, but it comes across as really engaging if you have your elbows on the table, because it just forces you to lean forward and kind of engage with the camera and with the audience in that sense. And it also then creates this really nice, easy pivot point where you can just do stuff with your hands. And you're also kind of then limited by, whoops, I just spat onto the table, limited by kind of the rotator cuff muscles, where you're never really gonna go all the way around here, but this general area is a very good place to do hand gestures and stuff like that. So basically, you can say the same thing, but if you're just using a few hand gestures here and there, there's just something about that just comes across as way more confident. And you can talk about, I don't know, varying the intonation of your voice up and down. Sometimes I'll just randomly do this. And it's now become such a natural part of my persona, but it was a thing that I had to actively work on in my early days where I had zero experience on camera, because I would watch my footage and be like, there's something about this just looks a little stiff. And if you're looking stiff on camera, the ultimate solution is just plump your elbows on the table in front of you and just start using your hands a little bit. Generally, when it comes to body language, we like open body language. So crossing your things like this is generally probably not good. Scrunching your thing up into a fist, unless you're doing that deliberately, probably not good. But open palms, open torso, this is the sort of thing that spreads good vibes and good well, what's the word for it? It just makes the audience like us a little bit more if we're doing that kind of thing. Now, you don't want your hand gestures to be so outrageously wild that they just become kind of distracting, but I mean, that's pretty unlikely. That's not the problem that most people have. The problem that most people have is that they are very, very stiff, like robots on camera, because they think that the thing that people care about is the way that they're speaking. But what you find is that the hand gestures make such a big difference. Having said that, I want to show you a little snippet from a YouTube video by Film Booth, I think it is, where he's analyzing two famous YouTubers, MKBHD and Mr. Who's the Boss, and he's comparing what their hand gestures are like in terms of the camera confidence before and after, i.e. ages ago, like 5+ years ago, and right now when they're way more confident. And you'll see this hand gesture thing illustrated in action.
See that? These guys don't talk to camera anymore. They conduct their words with very slow but deliberate hand movements, and that strengthens their message. They keep their palms open, which has been proven to be easier on the eye and more welcoming to viewers, and they avoid covering their vital organs, as this is what we do as a survival mechanism when we're nervous. This allows viewers to latch on to our points, but it also disguises our anxieties and sets a video up to have much higher attention as a result.
And now I want to include a segment from our drill section where I commented about this hand gestures thing to the people that we had in the studio, the team, to improve their confidence on camera. And you'll see me kind of explain this in a different way, and you'll see the way that they put it into practice as well.
Sore muscles are beautiful because you feel tired afterwards. Learning a language is unique because you can speak to different people. And omelette is the best thing because it's just so damn tasty. Okay.
Nice. No, it was really good. That was like genuinely sick. I would again suggest arms up here. So if you're in a classroom, you're sort of pushing your chest out in a way and like gesturing a little bit with the arms in this sort of torso region. And I know this is hard with the laptop over there, but try and speak to the camera as if the camera is like the person that you're speaking to with conviction.
Buying coffee is annoying because it's sometimes really expensive. Underwear is frustrating because it's just not so freeing. Breaking up exciting because you get to start something new. A charger is sensational because you get full battery.
Alrighty, so that was hand gestures. It's going to vary for different people. Like, play around with hand gestures and see how you feel about it. You don't want to go over the top, but it's unlikely that you're going to go over the top. And this is one of the things that we're going to talk about analyzing in the Teach framework that we're going to talk about in the analysis module. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson. Alrighty, welcome back. Now, one of the most, this is another technique that gives you a step change in your camera confidence and in the way that you come across on camera, and that is the idea of speaking through a smile. So I'm going to say some stuff. Let me just tell you about this technique. So, and you'll notice, and then I'm going to flip to speaking through a smile, and we'll see what difference that has on my personality. So, for example, right now I'm not smiling, but I'm trying to tell you about this thing in a way that makes sense. It's all about speaking through a smile. Now, when I'm speaking like this, it's fine. Hopefully it's coming across as fairly reasonable. But now I'm going to start speaking through a smile, and I'm just going to plaster a smile on my face. And now there's just something magical about when I just plaster the smile on my face. Like, it feels a little bit unnatural to me, but there's something about it that makes me feel good because now I'm smiling. There's this idea, the James Lange theory of emotion, which is that when we smile, that's when we're more likely to actually feel happiness ourselves. And so when I plaster a smile on my face, again, it feels a little bit artificial, but it just, makes that happiness kind of imbue every aspect of my being. And also, hopefully, you'll notice that when I'm smiling, hopefully it comes across as even more engaging and more sincere and more earnest and more earnest and more nice and more confident. Whereas I could be saying exactly the same stuff, but it wouldn't necessarily come across as sincere or earnest or fancy and it's one of those things where you'll notice that if you just plaster a smile on your face, your tonality just naturally changes with it because now you're in a happy state. No one ever has a smile on their face and speaks in this kind of tone. Like, this feels actively weird, whereas this feels very normal. Now I don't have a smile on my face. This is very much the Neil Gaiman approach to camera confidence. More on him in the case study section afterwards. But you just put a smile on your face and everything just gets better. And this is a tip that I give to students applying to medical school interviews as well, that whenever you're speaking and you want to speak enthusiastically about something, if you can just have a smile on your face, there's just something magical that happens which just makes you come across as way more confident and way more likable by just smiling. So this is something you can try for next time you're giving a presentation or doing a video. Just have a smile on your face and just see what happens. Obviously, don't do it if you're talking about someone's funeral. That would be a little bit inappropriate, but in most other cases, you can just have a smile on your face and it'll just make you feel good. Anyway, that was this tip. Let's move on to the next lesson. Thank you very much. Alrighty, that brings us to the end of the technique section. That's the end of module 2 of the course. In the next module, we're going to talk about how to analyze our footage to actively get better over time. And in the module after that, we're going to include the fun drills. So hopefully you found some of these techniques helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Do remember that practice ultimately makes perfect, and deliberate practice ultimately makes even more perfect. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next module.